In this video, we are going to use a parent constraint to allow a character to pick up an object or drop it off. So for this, we are going to use a rig character, and I'm going to reference in that character. You should not animate characters in the original file. You should always create references. So in this case, I'm going to create a reference for my robot rig. And this character is already prepared for me to work with as a controller that allows me to manipulate his body. And I'm going to also reference in the object. In this case, it's a sphere that just he's going to simply pick it up. So I don't want to import that object. I just want to create a reference for that object. What that allows me to do is that I have a ball object somewhere here. Okay, there it is, and I'm going to just reference that in, and that object comes in. So my ball object is just simply a rig of a sphere and a controller around it. Another key rule for you to work with objects and with characters is that you don't want to animate objects by their geometry, meaning I don't want to animate this ball. I always want to animate the controller above it. In this case, this controller is just simply a parent of that geometry object, same as the character. So I'm going to place the ball object where I want it to be picked up by this robot. I'm going to create actually a ground plane here so that I can animate my character over that ground plane. And I'm going to just place the object in the actual location. So I'm going to have the object sit somewhere here. Alright, that object is right there, and this object does not have a keyframe in it at this moment. So I'm going to put a keyframe for it so that it has a location, and I'm going to make my character move to go and pick it up. So I'm going to put a keyframe on the overall controller. I'm actually going to make sure I turn off geometry here so I don't select geometry by accident. Click on this icon so I cannot select geometry at all. The only thing that I can select now is just the controllers. So I'm going to put a keyframe on frame 1 for that main controller of the robot, and I'm going to animate the wheel controller from that position. Let's say he's going to take about a second to come over, and in my rough little rig he's going to come here and get ready to pick up that object. So for that, he's going to just take a few frames more to slow down here, and he has his arm. I put a keyframe there and there. And now I have his arm rotate. I'm just putting basic keyframes for it to do a quick pickup motion. So he comes from that, and he's do this, and this one out to be placed here so it doesn't look so rigid. Alright, so I have this guy at a frame 29. He's getting ready to pick it up. Alright. And then just finish up the motion there to pick it up. Since my character doesn't have a rigged hand, he's gonna just grab it there magically, just to show the example here. So right now my character does this. Oh, this one has been a little too fast. I need to change the keyframe here. Alright, so at frame 38, my character is ready to pick up that ball. So what I want to do there is I want to generate a relationship between these two objects, but we want to clarify a few things there. One of them is that the object has a keyframe in it, meaning it's going to want to stay there. So I'm going to put a keyframe in frame 38 there, so that I still have confirmed the location for that. And I am going to put a keyframe to the controller that is going to control that object, which is in this case this one. I don't have one for his hand, so this won't be enough for now. I'm going to keyframe there. And let me just play it. Let me just change my settings here so I make sure I play 24 frames per second. Alright, close this. Actually, it took a little while, so I'm going to just save my scene just in case. I'm going to call it Contrain practice. That way I don't lose my file. Okay, and now I'm ready to pick up that ball. So the arm comes and reaches to the placement where it really is ready to pick it up. Right now there's a little bit of an offset there. I'm just going to make sure I mark it perfectly, so that, let me just do it at frame 38 when it is that the hand is going to be touching that object. Okay. Alright, so all my objects have keyframes in the right location, and I'm ready to generate a relationship between the object and the hand. And for this, I'm going to make this object a child of this arm by using panning constraints. So I'm going to click on that and the parent first, and then on the controller for the child. And I'm going to go to under my animation menu set. I'm going to create a constraint, a panning constraint. In this case, I want the constraint to operate over translate and rotate for everything. And I want to make sure to maintain the offset. Why maintain the offset? Because the parent is in one location and the child is in different locations, so that offset needs to be respected. So I'm going to say add, and then that made a relationship that you'll see the ball controller receive that node showing the parent constraint. So if I pull back my animation, you see my object is now a child of that object, but still the object, the ball object, still have the keyframes for it. Only that the parent is taking parent constraint is taking precedence on top of it. Here is where you play with the way the parent constraint works, because when you created the parent constraint, the ball object had this new node added to it, and the new node has information, and you have here this attribute that controls that the functionality of the parent constraint. Also, the ball got added this other node called the blend parent, and that one also appears when the objects have keyframe. If the object does not have a keyframe, you may not see this. That's why it's a good idea to have a keyframe first added, even if it wasn't animated before, because it'll make your life a lot easier to work with it. So what we're going to do is that just to show, we want the object from frame 38 and beyond to be a child of the hand, but from frame 38, saying frame 37, we don't want it to be part of the constraint with the hand. So what we're going to do is we're going to say in frame 38, both this node, the controller W0 and the blend parent are 1, meaning they're on. So I'm going to right click on those. I'm going to key those. So I'm going to say key selected. I'm going to key select this guy too. And I'm going to back up one frame. I'm going to make those 0. I'm going to key select that one. I'm going to do 0 this one too. I'm going to key select that one. Why both? You could say just one of them would do it, but both is better to the way you have control of it. So now I have my object ready to be picked up. Of course, the robot is not moving after that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to just animate after that a little bit. So I'm going to just go and say, okay, well, he picked it up. It's not the controller, this one. He came and picked it up. I'm going to hold a few frames there just to give the chance for it to refresh. I'm going to put a few keyframes on the arms just to give him the time to do it. And then I'm going to go back up and rotate my character up. Rotate a little bit this way. And then the arm bend backwards a little bit. And maybe this one a little bit upwards and in that direction. So you see now that the ball follows the hand. What if the guy needs to drop off the ball somewhere else? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to animate the robot. Say he comes back up, hold for a frame there, and then move forward to go and drop off that ball somewhere else. So he comes and rotates that way to there, hold for a second, and now get ready to drop off that ball one more time. So I'm going to do a little bit of animation here of the arm. Just pull it up a little bit, just a little bit of animation, charisma there, and then as it is coming down, carefully place it on its location. I'm gonna probably grab this guy and bend it a little bit more downwards. Okay, that's roughly my blocking there. So he comes, picks it up, goes forward, stops to place it in the location there. And at that moment, I'm ready to drop off the ball. Increment and save here just before something goes wrong. And so you could say that you can go and grab the ball and then turn these guys on 0 again, so that the ball does not connect with the object. But there is one important thing, is that once you turn these guys off, I'm going to do it right here, the ball goes back to the original location or snaps back to wherever it was before, and that's because the ball has a keyframe there. So you want that ball to have another keyframe in its new location, right? So I just selected and I press S to create a keyframe, and then I'm going to keyframe these guys again in the previous frame. I'm going to keyframe this guy with a value of 1, keyframe 1, value 1, and then in frame 90 I'm going to keyframe it with 0, so that they don't follow that hand anymore. So he came, picked it up, put it down, and now I can grab it, grab the character, put a little bit of animation there, and he goes back up again. And get both. A little bit of animation charisma there. Wrong controller. That one. And then go. So here I have my animation, my character coming, picking an object, going, dropping it off, and then leaving the room. Alright, this is a sample of how you can pick up an object and how to drop it off. The key here is that you want to make sure you have your blocking and your timing correctly done. In my case, because I'm not, this is just an example, I didn't pay a lot of attention to my animation, but I would suggest you want to do your blocking of your animation, the full process first before you create the constraints, because once you have created the constraints, you want to start working with the keyframing of the blend parent, the constraint node, plus the additional keyframing of the ball in its location, and it becomes a little cumbersome to edit those. So better first fix the animation for the character, don't constrain it until you're totally certain that you can manipulate things. Alright, hopefully this helps you constraining your characters to objects. Okay, thank you.